Today we're talking about menopause. It is huge on every dimension. It's huge in terms of its impact on people's lives. It's huge in terms of the economic opportunity. It's huge in terms of the number of symptoms and body systems that it involves. Alyssa, give us the lowdown on some basics around menopause.
Menopause is defined as 12 consecutive months without a menstrual cycle for no other obvious reason after the age of 40. The iconic symptom of menopause, hot flashes. But of course, there's loads of other symptoms, as you mentioned. Hot flashes, night sweats, trouble sleeping, genital health changes, sexual changes, joint pain, headaches, dry skin, dry hair, you name it, you can almost blame your hormones for it. In any event, the average length of time that hot flashes lasts, are you ready? Hold on to your hats, 7.4 years. And some lucky few women will suffer for over 15 years. So this is big business because it's really impacting big lives. Welcome to the Business of the V. Hello, friends and colleagues. I'm Dr. Alyssa Dweck.
And I'm Rachel Braun-Sherrill. Each week, we will introduce you to the most fascinating inventors, investors, thought leaders, and healthcare professionals who are in the business of the V.
If you are a woman, know a woman, have a business, or care about your V health and wellness, fasten your seatbelts and listen in to another informative and inspiring episode.
We are so excited today to have Jill Angelo, co-founder and CEO of Gennev, which is described as the first ever online clinic for women in menopause. Jill spent close to 15 years at Microsoft, where she was contributed to the growth of household names like Xbox, Surface, and Office 365, and she is well on her way to being a household name in menopause too. She has been described, I love this, as the menopause whisperer, and literally is focused on changing the face of the way menopause is managed. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
How do you go from Microsoft to menopause? What was the journey to go from something like that to a category where you have to work and overcome a number of different stigmas?
Yeah, it's not your typical journey. I think one article, Fast Company, that put a little press piece out on it early on said from tech jobs to lube jobs, because obviously lubricant is one of the products that we sell in our shop, but I just thought that was super catchy. I love tech. I've always been in technology, but my purpose has been in women and girls health and development. Philanthropically, I've spent my time there. And so when I was on a sabbatical from Microsoft, I met my co-founder. She is an older woman, Jackie Brandwin. She helped build Neutrogena into a global household name and then sold it to Johnson & Johnson. And she'd been through menopause and then had went on to develop a lubricant, gotten FDA clearance for it, and really understood a lot more around what women go through at this time of life. And one thing led to another, and we decided to start the company. Obviously, first as an e-commerce platform for selling products, we added community and content, and then telemedicine. So we've evolved over time, but it came out of personal passion and then kind of meeting the right person and thinking big. And here we are today.
Amazing story. I love that. And of course, from tech to lube, who can't love that story? So, Gennev is really the iconic telehealth platform now for the menopausal population, surely an extremely captive audience. Tell us a little bit about how you gather these patients or consumers and the menopause assessment that you offer to them.
Yeah. Early on when we started the company, we surveyed 1,500 women to understand, how did you get educated on menopause and where do you buy your products? Like basic consumer segmentation kind of work. And out of that came, I think, our most foundational insight. And that was, I was unprepared to start the conversation. And so my first hire was even someone who was amazing at creating content. And she and I started talking to anybody working with women in menopause, and then creating articles and podcasts that would help educate women so that they didn't come into it so uneducated. And that grew our community. We optimized it in search because millions of women every day are searching on menopausal symptoms because it's discreet. And as we all know, it's still taboo and something we don't like to talk about. And so we capitalized on that need for information in isolation, if you will. And as a result, our audience today, still 80% of women who come to us or are finding us organically. In the last 12 months, we've had over 1 million women come and consume the content on our platform. So they're using it. You know, to your question around the menopause assessment, this is like a 5-minute questionnaire that you can respond to on our website that helps you understand 2 things. Number one, women kept saying, is this normal? Like, am I normal? And when you don't talk about something and your body's changing, you think you're the only one. So we wanted to answer that question with a questionnaire, number one. And then number 2, women wanted to know, where am I at in the journey? Because, you know, we talk about perimenopause, we talk about menopause, which is 1 day, and then we talk about postmenopause. And you can be in that whole phase of life for up to 20 years. And so helping women understand where they're at based on the symptoms that they're reporting to us is something that's useful for them to then kind of start to gauge, okay, great. First of all, I'm normal. And second of all, this is why I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing. Now I'm ready to get some help. So it just has been this, I think, nice way for women in masses to get their questions answered so that they're a little bit more educated and prepared.
So I love when you talk numbers. 1 million women came to your site. Last I saw, something like 80,000 people had filled out the menopause assessment. Talk about that and how rich that is in terms of giving you insight into for the kind of content that people are actually looking for.
Yeah. You know, we finished out 2020 with 100,000 assessments. That was our milestone for the year, and we got there. And we see about 300 women every day taking the assessment. So there's good new women joining our community on a daily basis. Part of the reason for the assessment, I talked about it from the users or from women's standpoint, but from our standpoint as a business, you know, our chief medical officer is an epidemiologist, Dr. Rebecca Dunsmore-Sue, and she, above anybody, she loves data. She lives in that. That's her career. But also, we know there's very little research on this part of women's health, and so that is, you know, in our mission to really innovate in menopause care, whether that is, you know, using this data for future innovation in devices, in apps, in over-the-counter products, you name it, in partnership with pharma to improve, you know, prescription versions of non-hormonal treatments. We want to innovate for women's health. And this kind of data starts to give us that information so that we can use it for good, not for marketing and business building. Obviously, we're using it so we can better treat what we recommend for her on our platform and in her health dashboard. But we want to use it for broader research as well. And it's just become a great tool for helping us start to make some inroads there.
Because one of the obvious next questions is, you have all this data, you know, are there other ways you're thinking about monetizing it? So I'm sure people approach you about advertising because they want to reach advertising on your site because they want to reach your audience, but you're headed in a different direction. I did want to mention that this is such a competitive space, and you're sharing some of the reasons why Gennev continues to rise to the top. What was it like when you were honored as one of the top female founders of 2020? The company wasn't founded in 2020, but the recognition came in 2020.
Yeah, you know, that was by Inc. magazine. You know, what I loved about that recognition is that it's putting menopause on the map for the first time. You know, again, there hasn't been a lot of innovation. And so when you think about publications like Inc. magazine putting a menopause founder on their list of amazing entrepreneurs across so many different industries, and that menopause is on the map, I think that's a move forward for all women in terms of getting the kind of menopausal care that we want. And yeah, it is increasingly becoming a competitive space. There's point solution brands, there's facial products, there's vaginal health devices, there are other telehealth platforms. And in the end, all that innovation is really good. It's good for all of us. I know it's good for us, and we've seen the change because it's elevated the conversation around menopause, so that when we go in to talk to investors, or when we go to talk to press, or even women, it's not such a, well, what is it? Like, you don't spend as much time educating people anymore because there's just more activity in the space. And it's going to take all of us to start to move the needle. So I'm always like, bring more into this, because it's a huge audience and we've got to make progress, and it happens by lots of organizations doing something.
I think the menopause population is a massive audience. They are so thirsty for knowledge. I see this in my office every day. And one limitation that I really see as a clinician is time. It seems to me that menopause counseling in general really lends itself to telehealth because an exam isn't necessarily needed. People still can go to their gynecologist or their internist for general care, but the time that they're afforded on a telehealth platform is great. Have you seen that this has gotten much broader with the pandemic and people not wanting to come into the office? And the second part of my question is, tell me about your practitioners. Who are they? How are they vetted? And what's their broad scope?
You know, I think you nailed it when you said menopause is perfect for telemedicine, because it's really a conversation about the whole woman and what's going on in your life, whether it is, you know, with vaginal health and painful sex, or your moods and anxiety, or your relationship with your partner, you know, or traditional things like hot flashes or heart palpitations. Like, that starts with a conversation. And typically, you know, we created our appointments and our membership to allow for that time for that conversation, because that was the difference, or the change that we wanted to present in our care model, that we were hearing both from doctors and women. Physicians who are working with these women want that time just as much as the women do, and you know that firsthand.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, that was number one. Our physician population, we have 25 gynecologists. We hand selected those women. Dr. Rebecca Dunsmore-Sue led that charge through her network, and they are all gynecologists, many certified by NAMS, that have experience working with this community and this audience. We have protocols that everyone goes on or takes, you know, in terms of, and agrees to when they join our team. But these individuals, again, all are experienced. In addition to our medical personnel, we also have registered dietitians, or health coaches, as we call them, as well as even a naturopathic physician, because a lot of women still, you know, some will say, I want to just go the natural route. I don't want to go the medical route, or I can't take hormone therapy, or I don't want to. And so we see a number of women also working with our more lifestyle-based practitioners. And the nice thing is, they're evidence-based as well. Like, they're working hand in hand with our physician team. And so a woman has a team approach if she wants to work with both sides, or she can pick one or the other. And that, to us, our mission and our goal was to treat the whole woman. And we're doing that with that kind of care model and with the professionals that we have.
And now for today's hot flash. This one is astounding. Fortune magazine notes that 1 billion women are expected to be in menopause worldwide by the year 2025. This is a staggering statistic and comes with a couple of other little stats. The Female Founders Fund survey, which was reported in this article by Fortune, suggests 78% said that menopause interferes with their lives to some degree. 36% said they felt prepared for menopause. This is not good enough. And 71% of respondents say they would benefit from a community around the menopause experience. This is really important for our times. I also love that it's not a one size fits all for your population, because after all, everybody's a little different. I just have to ask, because I'm an OBGYN and I'm in New York and it's a very litigious state. How do you folks over there navigate the controversy of hormone replacement therapy and all its risks? How is that managed on a virtual platform?
First, as a telehealth company, one of the first things, and I sought out counsel from another telehealth company that's become quite successful in internal medicine, but they told me, get an amazing, malpractice or telehealth attorney, get malpractice and cybersecurity insurance. So I got those. I use their providers. They're fantastic. And so we've got the kind of coverage that we need on that front. When you think about hormone replacement therapy and the fears and the myths and the uncertainties and yeah, the potential risk, we take that to heart. And part of how we approach it, we are of the mind space, just like NAMS or the North American Menopause Society, that, it is safe. And wow, has it come a long way in terms of application. And so we have patients who were former cancer survivors that are using it because they have said, if I can use it in a localized, safe way, and it improves my quality of life, I'm willing to take that risk and the risks that it presents. So we're very transparent with women, and yet we are like, this is the place to have that conversation. If you have questions or concerns or want to debunk it or want more help, but you don't want to take hormones, but you want to talk to someone who can talk to you honestly about the pros and cons for you, that's what we hope to present. We don't profit. We are not an online pharmacy. We phone or put the prescription into your pharmacy of choice, and then your insurance benefits take care of it from there in terms of reimbursement. So there's nothing in it for us other than taking care of you as the patient.
Excellent. One last thing, because you bring up the health insurance issue, women often want to go through their insurance. Is your platform covered, and is there a time and a space for that?
Today we are direct pay. So you pay for the appointment or the membership or the products when you come. For women who have FSA or HSA coverage, we do a lot of medical letters of necessity or reimbursement receipts for that. I understand a lot of women don't have that. And so we are working down the road to get, insurance reimbursement. We've got bigger work to do around getting the right codes in place and kind of the back office work, but it's something we're going to tackle because I think it's a game changer for not only women, but for our business too.
Agreed.
For people who are listening who don't know what FSA and HSA are, can you just share what the definition is and how that's a useful way to maybe cover some of the costs?
If you have, so if you're at your workplace, if you get your healthcare insurance through your workplace, there are programs that they can put in place called HSA or FSA. FSA stands for Flexible Spending Account, where you set aside money to be used on items that typically aren't covered by your insurance or your copay. Some people use it for childcare. Some people use it for over-the-counter products that a doctor has written a note for. It's very flexible. And if you go to flexiblespendingaccount.com or org, I think there's a site that even kind of lists the common things that are reimbursed underneath there. HSA is more of a health spending account. It's very, very similar. It's probably a little bit more restricted, but again, it's for those kinds of costs that aren't covered under the copay. So they're the things you pay out of pocket before you hit your deductible amount or whatever. And so it's just giving you, and they're both pre-tax. And so that's where the savings come to you. You set it aside beforehand and or your employer contributes to it. All I can say is use the funds. A lot of them are use them or lose them, or use it or lose it. So use them so that you get the benefit.
And we said it casually, but the products specifically focused on women's health that are now included, that has been the result of a lot of process, a lot of lobbying, and a lot of effort. One of the things that's so interesting about your approach and is very consistent with the dialogue and the narrative we're hearing in women's health as well as the business side is looking at her as a whole person. She is not a person who's just stopped menstruating or a person who has a backache or a person who has concerns about sexual health. All those things fit together. And to really give her the kind of care she needs, you need to think about all those things. So have you found the practitioners who were already there in terms of how they think about their patients and their needs, or are you moving towards that as a community of physicians at Gennev?
It's a great question. I think just a menopause experienced practitioner is going to look at the whole woman differently than an internal medicine or a psychiatrist or whatever, where they might be prescribing antidepressants for depression or a sleep aid because you can't sleep. Rather, a physician that's experienced in menopause, namely gynecologists, are going to look at the whole woman. And so that's one facet of looking at the whole woman and all the varying, crazy, wild symptoms that she's experienced associated with the hormonal change. I think to your point around looking at the whole woman throughout life cycle and, over time, I think we have a ways yet to go. But when we think about the practitioners we've brought on board, they're obviously looking at the whole her because they know menopause impacts her moods and her physical or her physical body as well. It goes beyond physical symptoms. There's a lot of emotional PTSD comes back in droves if you've experienced it in the past. Just really new and different things that make a lot of women feel like they're going crazy. So when we source or work with our physicians, a lot of them, they've gotten to be menopause kind of specialists because they've either gone through it themselves or they've just been around, done that. Like, the longer you're on this planet, the more you look holistically at things. And so I think our team also has the gift of time and experience, and so it just has that lens on their patients in that way. Are they cardiologists and neuroscientists and bone specialists? No, they're not, and those things very much matter, but I think they are well positioned to then recommend or refer when a specialist is required for the woman.
Yeah, it seems like it really comes up with a plan so that there's sort of an overall plan for women. The other thing is women want to talk to other women about their experiences and know that they're not alone. So I think your community surely provides that. This is amazing. I think this is going to grow, and grow again. So it's thrilling to speak to you. What is coming down the pipeline for Gennev?
Obviously in the year ahead, we are focused on growth. You kind of named our buzzword of the year. Growth is a big one, and we're obviously seeing it in terms of women coming to use our resources, and so we're continuing to focus on that. One additional, as we think about 2021, emotional mental health is a bigger focus for us going forward. So you'll see us doing more there. 84% of our menopause assessment respondents report emotional or mood change challenges, and then they go into detail around whether it's anxiety or depression or rage, and so forth. So you'll see us doing some focus there as number one, and then obviously 2020 just added another layer of complexity to that, as we all know. Another thing, you'll see us moving into new spaces. We're starting to go into the workplace. Workplaces are reaching out. 20% of the American working public are women of menopausal age. That's a huge part of the workforce. So starting at the end of this month, in fact, we are going to talk to a couple of companies in the tech space that have reached out. And so you'll see us going more into the workplace. Our goal is to prepare for more of a business to business kind of business model, so that we are going into workplaces and or working with payers. So you'll start to see some changes there. I won't share too much detail right now, but that's where we're headed.
Well, one of the exciting things about that is when companies started doing this, tech companies, for pregnancy and infertility, part of their strategy was as a way to attract the best talent. So I love the idea that this 20% of the workforce who is experienced and wise and has lots of battle scars and a lot to offer, that this could be a way to keep those very valuable employees at a particular company or in a particular field. For those who haven't stumbled across Gennev, heard of it, where can they go to get all this fabulous information about care, about community, about FSA and HSA?
Come to our website. It's Gennev, it's GENNEV.com. And, really across the website, you can do a lot. If you create an account, you get even more access. That account is free. Taking the menopause assessment is free. I can't kind of encourage women enough. Take the assessment as a start. You're going to see what your quote unquote menopause type is. And then you're armed with information. And that's the first step feeling better. I can't tell you how many women just say, I feel better already, just knowing. And so start there. It's an easy baby step, not a lot of commitment, and you're not giving up so much that you feel exposed. So we're here for women. Some women come to our website and they just type what they need into our chat. There's a chat window right on every page. You can always reach us there. We're very responsive. We have people standing by.
Excellent. Wonderful to speak. Best of luck. And thank you so much for joining us.
It is always great to see you. I'm thrilled that things continue to go well because I've seen you at earlier stages of this journey. So congratulations and wishing you continued success.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm honored and really glad to be part of this.
Don't forget, subscribe to our podcast at businessofthev.com for the latest trends and trendsetters in women's health and business.